Welcome to the Life's a Bit podcast. I'm your host, Larry Mullins, and today's guest has opened for the likes of Amy Schumer, Hannibal Buress, and Mark Norman, to name a few. He has performed in comedy clubs all across the country and is a regular at the DC Improv and Funny Bone comedy clubs. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chris Allen. The first comic I ever actually fell in love with was Chappelle.
Right.
And I've never been able to see him, but I don't know, for whatever reason, just when the pandemic hit and everything in the world just seemed like it was just going downhill, I sought out laughter more and more. I've always liked watching comedy movies and stuff, but
Right.
the first time I ever saw anything you was, and I believe I sent you a message on Instagram or something, was the racial chat you had with him, just you and him.
Right.
And I just first of all just wanted to cut. You're so well educated and so well spoken, and I learned so much just from everything you said. I was blown away. So I just wanted to thank you.
Oh, thanks, man.
I just wanted to thank you for that. I watched the one thing you posted on Instagram about dating women with kids.
Oh, yeah, that's an older
Darnell's kid, but still, that had
thank
me
you,
crying.
man.
I was laughing
Appreciate
so
it.
hard.
Yeah, it was funny. There's a lot of DC comics that actually live in Woodbridge, man. You're surrounded by a bunch of comics and don't even realize it.
It's crazy. The last time, I don't even know if it's still open, but the last time, I mean, and this almost I'm almost afraid to admit this, but this at the end of this month will be only my second comedy show ever.
No, that's pretty normal, man.
I went to I went to a Funny Bone in Richmond.
Yep, I've done
Is that still there?
Yeah, it's still there. Yeah.
I can't remember who I saw, but that was at least 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And all I know about this Draft House place is that it used to be a theater and it was turned into a venue, or is it still a theater?
It's still a theater. It looks like a theater. They still run movies there and everything, man. It's just they do comedy as well on the weekends, but during the week they show new movies too. But it's more of a cinephile kind of theater. They'll show a lot of older movies and stuff, and
they have tables and stuff in there, and
it's one of those theaters where you can actually order food and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
it's more of it's really loungy. Yeah, it can be a little difficult for comedy because it's just there's kind of that distance between you and the stage. I mean, you and the not the fans, but the crowd. It's an elevated stage, and people are kind of lounging back in chairs and stuff. So it could seem a little awkward at times, but it's still a great room.
Yeah, I remember when I went to the Funny Bone in Richmond. We were sitting in the front, the table, and it was the stage was right there.
Yep.
And so you were literally 3 feet from it was just
yeah, man.
And I just remember that being a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's some clubs where if you wanted to, you could just poke your foot out and knock so much drink over. That's how close people are, where you can accidentally knock their food off the table. So
I just and I know there's and I've seen videos of other people performing, but I know there's the DC Improv. What else is around here?
Well, you got the DC Improv, you got the Arlington Draft House, you have the DC Draft House, you have Sean Joyce, who runs it's called DC Underground Comedy, and he does it at the big. I don't know if you ever heard of the Big Hunt, but the Big Hunt is it's the big kind of alt room, if you will. And Sean Joyce has been doing it for years. Hopefully, when everything is comes back and up and running, that he can get back to where he was. Because as far as non-club venues, he's the top guy, and he has the Big Hunt, and he has a bunch of other venues that he runs the weekly shows at. But the Big Hunt on Friday and Saturday nights is it's more like a club where we'll have an 8 o'clock show and say a 10 o'clock show. And dude, he gets some great headliners in there. Che stopped in before he did his hour special for Netflix. Che came in, he did a week. I've seen Che and Michelle Wolf there. Hannibal Buress drops in, Patton Oswalt. Yeah, but when Norman was up and coming, Norman was doing it, List was doing it, Tim Dillon's done it, and for the last year or so, Sean Joyce has partnered with the DC Draft House. So I would say 2 weekends out of the month, the DC Draft House will book a comic, and then the other 2 weekends, Sean Joyce will have underground comedy there. So like guys like List and Norman, they've kind of outgrown Big Hunt because it's a small room, even though it's really cool. And I think it only seats about like 55 or 60 people.
Now you said like alt room. Is that like generally like a place that's not known for doing comedy shows? It's just like a venue that they book them at, or is that what?
Yeah, just like it's in the basement of a bar. And
okay.
It's all set up. But like when I first started doing comedy, you kind of had like you had mainstream comedy, which is like the Richmond Funny Bone, and then Richmond Funny Bone, and that would be like the Brian Regans, even Bill Burr was a club comic, people like that. But then the alt scene would be guys like Maria Bamford, Rory Scovel, even Hannibal was considered alt. People like that.
Okay.
That scene kind of popped up. The more the plaid guys with beards and the black rimmed glasses. People who would bring their notes on stage. The Janine Garoppolo's, people like that. But I mean, the alt scene really, I guess, is really not really as big of a thing as it used to be. But you still got bar shows, all kind of altish rooms, and then you have mainstream / club comics. But
cool.
So yeah, but dude, DC is absolutely amazing for comedy. I mean, there's so many shows. Like I said, you got the DC Improv, which is like the flagship, and then you got the DC Draft House, which is a sister club of the Arlington Draft House, and then you have the Comedy Loft, which isn't too far from where Big Hunt and the DC Improv is, and then you have a bunch of smaller, younger producers, and they produce paid shows, and they do a bunch of weekly mics. Dude, if you really like comedy, you can go on when things are up and running. You can go into DC and watch. I would say, if you could do them all, you could probably watch 7 or 8, and sometimes maybe 9 or 10 open mics a night if you wanted to. Man, it is a hotbed for comedy.
It's crazy because like I just never thought about. It's like now it's weird because with the state of the world and everything, and like COVID and everything, it's like now I'm like wanting to like wonder what shows I can go to. It's like now I'm like wanting to go to like all these, like, well, what's around here? What's, how far of a drive is this? How far of a drive is that,
Yeah. I'm trying to, I think I have a couple of buddies that are working on, have you ever heard of a place called Epicure? It's actually I want to say it's in either Vienna or Fairfax, but it's like a little restaurant or something. But
I have, the name sounds familiar.
They want to bring, there used to be a mic there a couple of years ago, but it died out. But they're talking about doing a rooftop show here. But dude, there's still a ton of pop-up shows outside. There's one series called Cry Baby. These guys from New York started it. And, they do a show. There's another series that these guys have set up called Don't Tell Comedy. And there's a bunch of satellite places all over the country where like, it's almost like a franchise. Like I think it started in LA, and they'll contact some comics in like say Austin or Chicago and go, hey man, do you want to do some shows under Don't Tell Comedy? And basically they almost set it up for you, and all you do is go and host it. You don't have to worry about selling the tickets and stuff like that. That was starting to become a big thing in DC. So hopefully when all that stuff comes back, we can get back to what we were doing before and hit the ground running. But the Don't Tell Comedy thing is pretty dope, man. It makes people feel like they're part of something kind of underground. You get the location at the last minute. It's kind of cool. It's like it's typically BYOB. So yeah, man, people really love it, man. Just getting like I've done it a couple of times. One time it was in a little yoga studio. Another time, yeah, dude, they set it up nice, man. It's cool, man, to have these pop-up shows.
That's the independent aspect of that kind of like fascinates me. Like just seemed that like you go to see like an underground band or something like that at just some random location.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. DC is, dude. If you find yourself being a new fan of comedy, you're in a great place to be, man. Because once all this is over, Woodbridge is maybe a 30-40 minute drive into DC.
Oh yeah, no, like I used to go
dude.
I used to go. I haven't been to DC that many times, but like I would remember just going to like I'm so clueless, like the Rock Creek area.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
And I would ride, my cousin and I would ride the metro out there for like concerts, like back in the day, like we go to like the 930 Club and places like that.
Right.
You know, I don't know DC that well, but yeah, I'm only like maybe 40 minutes max from it.
Yeah. I mean, like most of the main shows, you know, the Improv, Big Hunt, even comedy, the DC Comedy Loft, they're all in the DuPont Circle area.
Okay.
They're all within walking distance. So yeah, you don't have to do much traveling. And there's so many other little shows. My buddy Ramin, he does a show in Arlington. I can't remember the name of the bar. It's like literally like right next door to the courthouse and across the street from the movie theater over there. But he does a show there. He would do a show there every Wednesday. It was free. It was always packed. I mean, dude, there's so much comedy in DC, man. So much.
And it's like, I remember it's back when, you know, and I was married at the time, and it was just kind of like a birthday gift. Like, oh, I'm like, oh, cool, we're gonna go see like a comedy show, and like I had never been to anything like that. You know, went to like sat at the bar beforehand.
Yeah, man.
And then when you got the seats, and I was just like, oh, it was cool. I wish I could remember who it was, but I don't think it was anybody like super huge or anything like that.
It was probably just a run-of-the-mill, road act.
But it was fun though, you know. That's why when this thing came about, I was like, you know what? I'm going. I don't care. I'm buying tickets.
That's what's up, man.
I'm buying tickets. Definitely... I used to work in Arlington, so like,
okay.
I worked over in like the Ballston area by like the Capitals practice.
Right.
Over near, I guess, probably, I don't know, maybe about 5 minutes from the Pentagon.
Oh, okay.
But
I got some buddies that work there.
So like I'm pretty sure I won't have a hard time finding that place. But like I'm like clueless as far as like where to go. I've heard of the big places, but I've just never been.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I don't know if there's like a DC comedy scene page, because you know when you kind of like plugged into the scene, you typically don't do like the. I just don't like I don't like the DC nightlife pages, because I just stick to like the comedian specific pages when you're looking for bookings and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure there has to be some type of Facebook comedy page for the DC scene. But yeah, dude, you have Capital Labs, which is run by a young dude named Jack Coleman. He puts on some great shows, man. It's just there's a lot of great young comics. There's a lot of great, veteran comics. A lot of comics from New York and LA, they come there because Sean has really built, the underground scene there. Plus, you have the Improv, so you get all the big names. It's really dope, man.
It's weird because like I ever since stuff is gradually reopening, or at least being at partial capacity.
Right.
And I'm like, I remember I bought those tickets, God, like over a month ago, and I'm like, please don't cancel it. Please don't.
Oh, for Norman.
Yeah.
Or yeah. You never know, man. It can change in a day,
And when I was hoping, like when I found out the general area where you live, I was like, man, I hope he's there. I hope he's going to be there too, because
yeah, man, he asked me to
all that info isn't on the actual ticket, when you buy it.
Right.
So I was just fingers crossed.
Yeah. Another guy too, my buddy Martin Amini, he has this I shouldn't say that. He has his own company too. He runs a series called Overachievers, and he gets some great headliners that come in. That's like a real hip, cool show that he does. And he actually does it. He's doing it at the Draft House now. He's done it at the Improv. He's done it at the Comedy Loft. And I'm actually doing it that Thursday before I start the weekend with Norman. So I'll be up there Thursday, Friday.
Oh, that's
Saturday.
Cool. So.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to getting back on the road and once everything settles down, getting back up to New York City and trying to get, my name up there as well, man. But if you like comedy, dude, you're in a great place with DC, man. There's so many shows.
And I feel like I'm like, man, I'm like a certain age, and I feel like just so like slow. I'm just like discovering all this stuff, and I'm like, where have I been? It's like I just opened this door and there's like all this stuff, and I'm just like overwhelmed.
Yeah, I'm not a young guy either, man. I know how it feels, man.
Like I've always liked laughing and stuff, and like back in the day, like I'd like watch like the bigger people on TV, and
right.
There's so much good stuff out there, and I'm just like blown away.
Yeah, man. It's really blowing up. all
So
the
like,
podcasts as well. And yeah, dude, it's crazy.
when did you decide like this is what you wanted to do? Like,
Um, I was in the military for 20 years. So, I, I was in Colorado. I got orders to go to Las Vegas, and I was just like, man, I'm doing the military thing. I've been in 8 years. I was just like, it's really not that exciting. I don't want to live with any regrets. And I was like, what can I try? And I was like, man, people have always told me I was funny because, we would play ball at the gym and we would bust balls and all that kind of stuff. At work, the same thing. I was always quick-witted. And I was like, you know what, Vegas, that's the entertainment capital. I was like, I should try comedy, man, because people told me I should try it. And I finally went, we got out there. I told myself I'd give myself 6 months to mentally prepare and actually write stuff. And we moved there in December of, I'm going to say it was like 07. And by January, I had gone to my first mic. The first time I ever went up was Martin Luther King Day, 2008.
wow.
And, it didn't go well. I was so scared. I got super drunk. And my wife, I forgot my notes. My wife had to yell my premises up to me. I was bombing. They tried to pull me off stage. I wouldn't give them the mic back. It was pretty bad. But for that first year, I had a lot of stage fright. I would talk myself out of my jokes at work. And so, I would get to the show. I would sign up. And I would, again, talk myself out of the jokes. I would erase my name from the list. I would hang out. I even did the thing where I got up on stage before and I froze and I was like, I can't do this. And I just ran off stage, ran out of the venue, got in my car and just drove home. I was so scared. So
I imagine like that, like I've said this to other people too. Like I've always had like major stage fright. Like, cause I was into like music in high school and I was in a few bands and stuff, and we'd like get a show and I'd be like, oh no, I can't do this. I would just see people. And
a lot of comics have it, believe it or not, man. A lot of great comics, and I'm not saying that's me, but a lot of great comics who you wouldn't assume would have stage fright, they do. If you watch any Mitch Hedberg sets, watch that guy. That guy, I'll give him. He was also a heroin addict, so he might have been a little shaky, but he was very, very nervous. That's why he wore those shades on stage. It was like his little safety blanket. I mean, and there's times where they said he would do his act with his back to the audience. He was so nervous. And you're talking Mitch Hedberg, one of the most, he's an alt guy. That's alt comedy. Mitch Hedberg, a brilliant comic like that, so afraid he would turn his back to the audience. He couldn't even look at the audience. He was so afraid. So it happens, man.
I can't imagine that. Like, I'm still, I've always, it just fascinates me. Like when you're, I know, like, at least from talking to a few people, everybody has their own method, but like, how do you come up with stuff? Is it just based out of like personal experiences and you're like, oh, that's kind of funny, or I could
it
say
evolves.
it a certain way or describe it a certain way? And
yeah, it evolves, man. It's just like when you first start, you're really trying really hard to you're trying to like make everything funny. And then like over time you learn to find the funny in things instead of just trying to force it. And over time you kind of figure out like a lot of source of my comedy comes from this. So some guys, they feel like they need to go out and experience things, and they like to talk about like, oh, I went skiing for the first time, and then they can create a 15-minute chunk on that. Some people, it's their kids, or if some people, they do the old school thing where it's just like they just go through newspapers and magazines, or or they just scroll through news articles and stuff. It really just depends. It could be something that you saw driving by, on the road. It could be anything, man.
Like, it's just observation.
Like it's just observation. It's everywhere. It could be anything, and it's everywhere. It really just depends on how you look at it. Just sometimes out in public, you can watch an interaction between two people and go, oh, that was funny. But if I put myself in that person's shoes and I did this, then,
Okay. Yeah. I wondered how, like, people like find like their own, like style or whatever. 'Cause,
that's the journey. Yeah.
Yeah. It just fascinates me because I'm like, I'd see something like, how long did it take them to get to that point?
It's an evolving thing. Like I have this one joke. It's an older joke. I don't do it as much, but I used to have this joke where I would go, Like I get that I'm a big guy and everything, but I have feelings. The other day I was at the grocery store, and I come down the aisle. This woman sees me and she runs back and she grabs her purse out of her cart, and I'm like, really, lady? I'm looking at organic raspberry vinaigrette. How tough do you think I am? But what happened was, it's like I'm literally just at the grocery store looking at different salad dressings, and this lady walked by, and she actually just left her purse at her cart. And I was like, why would somebody just leave their purse at their cart? And I was like, oh, that would be funny if I said, I'm looking at this salad dressing, and this is how it happened. I was like, that lady probably saw me looking at this raspberry vinaigrette and go, oh, this guy isn't tough. I can leave my purse around this guy. And I was kind of like, oh, that could be funny. That could be funny if I flipped it the other way around and said, this lady ran back and grabbed her purse. And I'm like, I'm looking at raspberry vinaigrette. Why would you think I was a tough guy? So it's stuff like that. It's just taking situations and learning how to flip it, maybe switch your position in it. Dude, it's a lot of lying. It's a lot of embellishment. It's a lot of switching of roles. It's a lot of making things to fit your story. But the best comic,
like just everyday stuff, just like
right. But the best comics, man, they can take the smallest interaction with anybody and just pull out so much detail and like just little nuances and little things. Like that's what's great about Bill Burr, Patrice O'Neal. They can watch an interaction with somebody and break down some guy's posture during an argument and go, see, this is why this guy is going to lose this argument, or this is how I knew this guy was a piece of shit, or you know what I mean? It's just learning how to observe people and break down human interaction, noticing body language, body movements, all types of stuff, man. Just certain words. It's a lot, man, and that's what makes it fun, man.
I think just like it's like it seems like regular everyday stuff. I mean, because like my cousin and I will just be talking like just regular, just crazy stuff. Like I'll see funny stuff and I just think that's funny, and him and I will just go back and forth and talk about it. But I've always wondered how like a comic like comes up with stuff, and I'm like, do they find the same thing funny, or like I'll think a certain thing about something and like I don't know, does that make me crazy for thinking that about this?
That's what's great about comics, man, because it's like I think a lot of people who have those kind of thoughts, you go, man, am I crazy? Do I think like this? And then however you get there, you find yourself in comedy now, like at mics and stuff, and you start hanging out with other comics and people, you're hanging out, people are talking about their day, stuff they seen on TV, and they start telling you the thoughts that they have, and you go, oh shit, I had the same thought. And you go, man, all these people kind of think like me, like these are my people. And that's how I felt when I first started, man, because I was always pretty witty and pretty quick. And I had some friends that were too, but I was typically the quickest one. Yeah. But then when I started hanging around comics, I go, oh man, I've met my match here. This is fun. These are the people I've been looking for, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my tribe, man. I love hanging around comics, and it's not always like ball busty and just weird conversations. We talk a lot about the gender stuff, the trans stuff, gay stuff, race stuff, family stuff. We talk about regular things like everybody else too. Not that we're different, but yeah, there are some topics and ideas that we do only we only discuss amongst each other because it doesn't work with civilians, man. Because sometimes I've been in situations where I'm hanging out with my wife's friends, it's just regular people, and I'll say something, and people will go, Jesus Christ, this guy, and I go, oh shit, that's right. I'm not hanging around comics. I can't make a joke like that around people. Or like, what's wrong with this guy? And I can't. I don't like that anymore, man. It's hard to hang around regular people,
Yeah, I'm like I'm a regular person, but I find like I don't know, like I try to find the humor in everything. Like that's how I've always been my entire life, like the dark stuff. I'm like, because like just people, like I see some people that are just so unhappy all the time, and I'm like, just like you're choosing to be that way, just right. So I'm like, I like anything that'll make me laugh, and like sometimes I'm like, oh, should I have been laughing at that, but it's
that's what's fun about comedy, when people are like, damn, should I laugh at that? It's just like you got to ask yourself, like, you know, I get it. We don't want to marginalize people and all that kind of stuff, but you got to ask yourself, like, did somebody really die in the joke? Or like, come on, it's just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm definitely not saying we should just go out and blatantly disrespect people for our own humor. But yeah, dude, it's okay to laugh at stuff, man.
And it just seems like my observation is like everybody, at least nowadays, is getting offended so easily.
Right.
And I'm just,
yeah, man.
I, you know, like
it's everybody too, man. It's everybody. It's what's funny is it's like a lot of people say, oh, it's the liberals. It's like, dude, I've seen it at comedy shows where, you know, it's also conservative people. Like, you know, you make a gay joke and someone gets mad and upset and yell out to you, like, you can't say that. And that person will go, oh, shut up, stop being sensitive. And literally 5 minutes later, you do a Trump joke. Now that guy's like, hey, man, I didn't come here for that. It's like, dude, literally 5 minutes ago, you were yelling at someone else, telling them to stop being sensitive. So, it's everybody. You know, it could be any topic. It could be about your own kids. It could be about church, school. People just get offended. Teachers, they get offended. You know, electricians, plumbers, people just get mad, man.
Yeah, you know, like,
Cops.
And I would see, like, you know, like if you're gonna go to like a comedy show or watch stand-up comedy and you get easily offended, you know, you went to the wrong place. In my opinion, I mean, yeah, somebody else told me that. Do your research, maybe watch some stuff so you kind of know what you're getting into.
Right. Just do your research and just know you might, if you hear something you don't like, just, you know, let it go. Or just walk out. And, you know, in comics, we have to, you know, because a lot of times we'll say one thing and then get upset about another. Like, I remember I felt bad because I kind of went off on this chick who was sitting up in the front row at the Tempe Improv. Like, I'm doing my acting stuff and she's just like not laughing. She's not enjoying it. And I was just like, why the fuck you sitting up here? If you don't like it, fuck you. And I was just like, you know what? We've always told people, if they don't like it, don't laugh and don't say anything. And I felt bad because she eventually, they just moved to the back of the club, you know? And I was just like, you know what? That was wrong of me. She didn't like the joke. She felt a certain way about it. She didn't say anything. And it kind of got to me. That's a weird thing too, man. It's like everybody could be enjoying the show. And for some reason, you could be in a room doing a room of 400 people. There could be some guy way in the back left-hand corner, and you can see that one person not enjoying it. And for some reason, you got to focus on the one guy or lady that's not laughing, and it hurts, man. That's the thing. We talk about audience are sensitive, dude. Comics are just as if not even more sensitive because it's our material, it's our baby. And if you don't like it, it hurts our feelings. So, I mean, you know,
so there could be like 299 people laughing hysterically, and that one person in the corner,
one person,
straight face, and that just kills you.
And you're just like, I got to get this one guy. I got to get this one. It's just something about comics. Like, we just have to be liked. We have to be liked, man. And what's fun is it's like you learn how to turn that into it. You learn to turn that into comedy as well. It's like, man, that one guy isn't laughing at all. And you tell a joke, you go, no, you didn't like that one either? Damn it, I'll get you. And then like, what about that one? You know, every so often you come back, and then when you get him to laugh, you go, he laughed, everybody, he laughed, and everybody will start applauding. You know, it's just, that can be fun as well, you know. But we all have to learn to stop being so sensitive about people not liking our jokes too, if I'm being completely honest.
And it's like, I'm more of the type of guy, like I'm just like a quirky goofball, like kind of shy and awkward, like an introvert, you know. And
really, you ask a guy you don't know to do a podcast.
Well, I gotta, you know, shy. I gotta put myself out there. I have to if I want to do this, you know.
This is very weird because if COVID never happened and you asked me to do this, I would be like, nah, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame you. I'm like, oh, you know,
I don't know you from Adam, and here we are looking face. I can see your kitchen. It's very weird, but it's the new normal.
But it's like because I know, like, I've seen, like, I've had a few messages where it's said seen, but I've gotten no reply, and I'm just like,
yeah, you get
like, oh, that's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And but some are probably just busy and have an intent on replying, and some probably just don't want to say no.
No, they're just not going to answer, man. It's just like a lot of those guys they're super busy, man.
Oh, yeah, and I understand that.
Super busy, man, yeah. I mean, because a lot of guys that I'm like really cool with, I'll shoot them a text and I might not hear anything for 3 or 4 days. And it's like, hey, my bad. I was doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I go back to like being sensitive and stuff. Like my cousin and I are walking, like, and he has a situation where like him and his dad are on talking terms now, but him and his dad haven't been close for like the longest time. And my dad died like back in 2003, a long time ago. And it got to the point now where like, it sounds so messed up. Like I don't make like dead dad jokes. We were walking in the mall and talking and he's like, oh, my dad reached out to me, for my birthday. It's weird. I'm like, oh, well, at least you can talk to your dad. I haven't talked to mine and, blah, 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 blah. And since he died, we kind of laughed about it, like I can do stuff like that now. I'm not joking that he's dead. It's kind of like that's my sick sense of humor though. I mean, like,
but at the same time, that is comedy because you have someone complaining and you go like, I don't even have a dad in your bitch. And it's like, you can laugh about it. But at the same time, he's like, oh yeah, maybe I should be thankful. You know what I mean? And that's what comedy is. It's like, oh yeah, you know what? That is funny. Maybe I should back my my feelings about X, Y, and Z back just a little bit. Maybe I am being a little hard on people about blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's what comedy does, man. It brings light to a lot of things. And oh yeah, man, that's right there. That's a perfect example of what comedy is. Or the fact you could even say like, it would be even more weird if my dad reached out to me, and he's dead. It's like, you can give an example. Oh yeah, my dad reached out to me too. He knocked a picture frame off my wall. There's something silly like that.
It's weird, like, even just from what you've been saying, like you're, even like in some ways, like a comic's life can parallel just like a regular person's life in a way that like I understand what you're saying, like how like you said around your wife's friends, you can't do certain jokes, you can't say certain things, and like it's just like that with me. Like when my cousin and I talk, it's like completely unfiltered. But like if we're hanging out and I'm around his wife and one of her girlfriends, we only say certain things like, oh, we can't say this around them, just
right.
So I mean, I understand that. I imagine that could get you in trouble pretty quick.
Yeah, if people, it's just like when you've been hanging around comics for years, for the majority of the time, and you go to these regular like civilian events, and someone says something, and you make an off-color joke, and just to see people's reaction, you go, "Oh, I forgot. This is not comedians in here, and that sounds really bad." To a person who just works a regular 9 to 5, and I've had it happen, man. I've had people like, why would you say that? It's just like, I thought it was funny.
Do you actually like write everything down?
Yeah, I write
like,
everything down.
Type it up, and do you like go through it and memorize it, or?
I've really just gotten comfortable with putting notes in my phone. Mm-hmm. But even when I put notes on my phone, I take those notes and I put them on actual paper, and I carry a little notebook around. So, but yeah, I write, like if I come up with a joke, I'll write it down. And because I have ADHD like most comics, as I'm writing the joke, I'm already thinking of like, oh, what if I said this instead? So I'll write the joke how I originally wanted to go. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of times I'll write it again in almost the opposite way. And then when I'm writing that, sometimes yet another angle will come, and I'll do that. So typically what I'll do is I'll try it the original way, or sometimes if I find the opposite way funnier, I'll do it that way first. And if that doesn't work, I'll do it the original way or the third way. But a lot of times the joke ends up working when you combine the three somehow, and sometimes like what you want to be the joke is actually the punchline. Sometimes, you get the punchline first and you have to figure out what the joke is. And sometimes there's jokes that you really want to be a standalone joke, and it's really not. It's really just a tag for something else. So that's why it's always important to keep all your material, because you might write a joke about, Chick-fil-A, for instance, and it's like, I want to write this Chick-fil-A joke, but guess what? You have a joke about customer service, and you go, oh, you know what? That line from that Chick-fil-A joke would actually go better here, and now you just have to just face the fact that Chick-fil-A joke really isn't going to be a thing. but the one line from that joke is going to go somewhere else.
Okay,
so you really have to be open to your material going any and everywhere. Yeah, man. You
changing
can't lock
words,
yourself in.
changing words out and like, oh, I'm going to cross this part out and add this. And
yeah.
Basically, the thought process, it always fascinates the hell out of me. Like, how is it done? Like, how do they do it? Like, it just,
everybody has their own process, man.
Hysterically. How does it work?
It's a weird phenomenon, but basically what you really want to do, every joke, you want it to be as short as possible. You want as few words in every joke as possible.
You don't want people's attention span, or
it's just not that. It's just too many words. You can lose the punchline. You can lose the effectiveness or the intensity of the punch. Sometimes you can set things up a little bit too much, and people can see it coming. Mm-hmm. And then when you say da-da-da-da-da, it's just like, oh yeah, I saw that coming. So you want to reveal as little as possible. You really want that punchline to pop.
So kind of get more of a laugh, because if they kind of see it coming, they might be like,
right. It's more of exactly.
They might just giggle a little bit and that's it.
Right, because they saw it coming. So yeah, comedy is really all about word economy. You want to have as few words as possible with every joke, But you also have people who have long form joke. Even in a long form joke where you're telling a story, you want to tell that story in the most succinct way as possible. You got to take out any detail that doesn't somehow relate to the punchline or has something to do with something else in the story. Get rid of it. When you hear, like, you ever heard Bert Kreischer's The Machine story?
Oh yeah.
He said it took him like 10 years to get that.
That's crazy.
10 years to get that joke, to get that story. So yeah, it's just learning how to like boil all the fat off every joke that you have, and it's like, now I just got the meat, and that's the fun part. That's what's great about working with other comics, because you get in your own head. Because, dude, a lot of times you'll come off stage and your friends will go, yo, take this word out, and when you say this, switch it. Say this before you say that. And you go, oh, I didn't see it. And then, boom, the joke works. Take this out, switch these words, boom. That's it. Sometimes taking the race out of a joke makes it work better. Sometimes adding a race to someone, adding a sex, adding a location, just adding one word, taking a word out, changing a word can dramatically change the effectiveness of the joke and how funny it is, all that kind of stuff.
It could be the smallest thing that could just change it up completely.
It can really just even be the pacing of the joke. Instead of doing a joke like, boom, 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 you go boom, 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 boom. Just that alone could change the joke. Wow. Yeah, man. It's a fun. It's a science, man. It's fun.
It just fascinates me. It baffles me. I'm like, I wonder how they go about doing this. And I mean, we said everybody does it to really make sense, but I mean, it's just the science behind it, I guess. It's just fascinates me.
It's like basketball. Like there's a textbook way to shoot a basketball, right? We all know how to shoot a basketball. The follow through, keep your elbows straight, all that kind of stuff. But every player in the NBA, they have their own unique shot, but they perfected it. But they all follow the fundamentals. But it looks different. Dude, I can't remember the comic who was telling me, but they did a show with Mullins, and they said they were backstage, and he murdered, killed. They said after he came off stage, he ran to his laptop, opened it up, because he types everything out. Mm-hmm. Dude, he went to one word, deleted it, saved it, and closed. That's it. He changed the one word. He got rid of one word, and he goes, the joke is done. John Mulaney took out one word. Perfect. That's a dedication to the craft, dude. Where you go open your laptop and you just delete one word and go, I got it now.
That's crazy.
But that's why he's so freaking good, man. Same with Seinfeld,
So you got into comedy like by doing the open mics in Vegas. That's how you started.
Yeah, I can walk you through
When did you move to the East Coast, and how did you get into it there? Did you already have some connections or know some people, or?
No, well, okay. Well, I'm originally from Rochester, New York, but so I was out in Vegas. I was out there for about a year and a half, almost 2 years doing comedy. Then I got orders to Dayton, Ohio, and it just so happens my mentor lived in Dayton, Ohio. This guy named Vince Morris. I met him. I saw him on Def Jam years ago. I thought he was brilliant. He happened to be out in Harris at the casino when I was out there. My buddy knew him. He introduced me. I was like, oh my God, this is the guy I saw like 6 years ago. I always wanted to meet him. He's the reason why I want to do comedy. So I was very, very lucky to have met the guy who made me want to do comedy. He was the very first professional comic that I ever met. It would be like somebody meeting Hannibal Buress or Richard Pryor for as their first comic. Vince Morris he's brilliant, dude. A brilliant Black comic, very poignant, smart. I mean, great jokes, dude. I mean, just so airtight. Dude, he's brilliant. One of the best unknown comics there are. So I moved to Dayton, Ohio. He's like a 15-year vet. He takes me under his wing. I start going to the Funny Bone with him, and he introduces me to the managers and stuff. And so I start doing like their contests. I start doing the bar shows, and eventually I get a chance to do some guest spots, and eventually you start hosting. So that's how you get into the club scene. You just start hosting some. You do their contests, you do their open mic, and eventually they give you an MC weekend, and then you do MC weekends for I would say 3 or 4 years, which is typical for most comics that don't live in New York. And then over that course of time, they'll give you like an MC, a feature spot on the off night. You know, you're getting to do longer sets. You're doing longer sets on bar shows. So you're building your set, and you just get opportunities on that, man.
And like hosting is like when you like introduce each comic and you do a few jokes, talk for a little bit, and that's what hosting is, or?
Well, because a typical club shows, you got the MC, the feature, and the headliner. The MC is the guy who goes up and does 10 minutes, and he brings up the feature. The feature comes off. You go, hey, give it up for Kelsey Cook, everybody. You ready for your headliner? Everybody put your hands together. You've seen him on O&A. He's got his own show. Put your hands for Jim Norton. That's what you do as an MC. And then Jim Norton goes up, and then he comes off stage. Give it up for Jim Norton, Kelsey Cook. I'm Chris Allen. Don't forget to do your comic cards. They'll be outside selling shirts. And that's what you do as an MC. You get 10 minutes, and then eventually you get bumped up to that 25-minute spot, you know? And it's a weird thing of like, it's kind of like how people do their careers now. Like back in the day, you could stay in one company and move up.
Yeah.
But in clubs, in an A club, you start at the bottom as an MC. Mm-hmm. You know, you do these bar shows, which are below clubs typically. And, you want to work your way up in the bar clubs in the bar scene too. So if you can headline a bar show, you could typically maybe feature in an A room typically if you're a good comic. So what you really want to do is use those B rooms, C rooms in the bar shows to test your material, to build your set. So when you get opportunities in an A room, you can do well. And eventually, when you start doing well in A rooms, B rooms and C rooms will go, hey man, I saw you MC at the DC Improv. Here's a small chuckle hut in Woodbridge. Do you want to feature here? Cool. It's like they're not going to feature you at an A club, but they'll feature you at a B room and maybe headline you in the C room. So basically what you're doing is you're using every room at every level for different things. You're using open mics to try new stuff. You're using the B rooms to work on your long set. You're using C rooms to work on your headline set. And then when you work on all that stuff, you bring all your polished stuff to the A rooms. So it can be kind of complicated. Yeah, man.
It's like multiple levels.
It's a lot of,
kind of like,
it's multiple levels, and you use each level for different things. So whenever you get an opportunity to do a guest spot in an A room, you're bringing A material. You're bringing your best stuff. But in the B room and the C room, it's like, I'll try some new stuff here because I'm doing 45 minutes here. And I typically don't get to do, right.
I've always heard the A, B, and C thing. I was like, what does that mean exactly? I know, I mean, obviously A is like the main, like,
yeah,
that's pretty self-explanatory. I've just wondered what it meant exactly.
Yeah. B and that's all relative too, man. Depending on where you are in your career. Of course, there's obviously A rooms like the Comedy Cellar, A room. The DC Improv, A room. But the bigger you get, the more latitude you have to play around. Because like most headliners don't, especially if they don't live in New York City, they don't go to mics. but they've been doing comedy for so long that they can work their material into their headlining set. If they're doing 15 minutes, they'll go, I'm going to do my new 20-minute chunk in the middle, you know? So they'll do 10 solid, they'll work on 20 in the middle, and then they'll close on stuff that they know, and they go, cool, I got that 20 minutes. And then that new 20 minutes, they'll maybe move it to the front and go, okay, I'm gonna work on this 10 minutes. You know, so they got their newer stuff in the front, they got their really new stuff in the middle, and then they close on the strong stuff. So it's a lot of moving around, dude. It can get pretty complicated, and everybody has their own style, man. Like there's some comics like Sam Morril, when he tapes a special, he already wants another hour done. So when that hour is taped, boom, he has a new hour already ready to go at the clubs. So
yeah, that's a lot of work. It sounds like a lot of work, but it's like it's so fascinating because I've just always wondered how like everybody goes about it. Like,
yeah, but see, that's why New York
comics, this took 2 years. This took like a week. This took 10 years.
Right. But that's why New York comics develop so quickly, because they get the opportunity to go up so much, especially once they get established somewhat in New York City. Because a lot of guys move to New York City thinking they're going to be able to get up 7, 8 times a night, and that's really not true, man. When you're new, you don't know anybody, and all the mics that you go to, there's like 30, 40 people. You got to pick from a hat. You got to wait. There's only 2 minutes. You only get 2 minutes. But when you're on like a mid-tier level and you're past that club, that's when it's really effective, because like you can do New York Comedy Club, you can go to the Cellar, you can do Fat Black, you can do 5 shows and work on 50 minutes a night. You know what I'm saying? That's why those guys can develop so fast. Because like the guys that are worth their weight, man, they go up 4 or 5 times a night. They'll come up with a new joke that morning, and boom, by the end of the night, it's done. The guys that really, really work hard. Is
there, because we're about at our time, I didn't want to hold you up too much, okay. plus I'm like, who's going to want to talk to me for more than, whatever.
This is very true. See, that's my sense of humor.
At least I was right. At least I was right about that. Because it's funny whenever I'm talking to my cousin, he's like, oh, you're so fucking boring. I'm like, I know, and plus, because I'm like, this is just kind of like a pet project. I'm like, I wanted to do this, try it out and see how it goes, because I just want to pick people's brains, because like I've gotten into watching it so much, and it all fascinates me.
Yeah, man, it's a fun process, man.
Is there anything specific you want to like plug or anything like that?
I mean, check out my podcast, Negro Police Radio. It's on, iTunes and Spotify and all that kind of stuff. I do a live AMA show that streams on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook every Tuesday at 9. Sometimes I have guests on there. We talk about different things, but people just ask us silly questions. It can range from like, what's your pet peeve, to like, how do I feel about what's going on in Kenosha? It can be anything. And I like that show because it keeps me on my toes, because people will ask like, who's your favorite villain in the movie? And then ask me like how I feel about guns, and who's my favorite actor? Who's your least favorite? Your brain is all over the place. It helps me to stay sharp while I'm not really getting on stage, man. Just trying to pull all these different random facts and ideas and stuff like that. It's helpful.
Yeah, I was the guy in there asking about the Sopranos and The Wire.
Oh, really? Dude, I love those shows.
Yeah, last week, and it was the only one I've actually watched, like tuned in live as you were doing it.
Which one? Sopranos?
He Got Answers.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought thank you.
Yeah, I want to say it's not the most recent one you did, but I think last week.
Oh, okay.
Where all the Top Gun talk was happening, and and like I was fun, like, because I know you like the Sopranos, and so I threw out like about The Wire too, because that's like my favorite show.
Oh yes, I remember that. Yeah, dude. How do you feel about season 2
of The Wire?
Yeah,
I mean, it's good. Like I kind of like that there were 2 storylines going during that season.
So did I. Yeah,
the port workers and then the Barksdale crew and all that, but
people shit on it, man. People shit on it.
It unfolds kind of like a book, and I'm like, you got to be patient with it when you're watching it,
right?
Because it unfolds.
Right. The first time I watched the show, because you know how sometimes people can make you jaded towards something before you even watch it or listen to it. When I got into the show, people were like, just skip season 2, man. It's not good. And I was just like, all right. Actually, I watched season 1. I started season 2, and I was just like, I'm not into this. So I skipped it, and I watched the rest of the series, and I was like, I don't want to be done with the show. And I was like, oh, season 2. I went back and I watched it. I was just like, this is just as good. It's just different. It's just a different setting. But the writing and, like you said, the story, the way it unfolds, how it all plays out, is just as good. And I rewatched the whole series when the lockdown first started. And it's a solid episode. The show was great. I will say some of the last season, they kind of jumped the shark with some of the McNulty stuff. But I still, with the homeless stuff, I was like, what are they doing? But I still really enjoyed this. They did a great job at wrapping it up because, dude, it got crazy for a few episodes. But they did a great job at wrapping everything up.
Yeah, and I like how it kind of ended just like it was just another episode.
Right. They did a great job.
It wasn't like wasn't like some major event didn't happen or anything. I mean, but
it was kind of like, life's going to go on just like it really will. You know?
Yeah, like I could talk about The Wire for hours. Cause like once my friend just told me one time, like years ago, hey, you should check out The Wire. And I'm like, all right. And I just watched it. I was hooked instantly. And I'm like, oh, I gotta watch the next one. I gotta watch the next one. I gotta watch the next one. And then I mean,
what people, not to cut you off, buddy. I mean, what people doing all these rehashing of shows and stuff. If you want to get into more podcasts, rewatch The Wire, man, and do analysis of each episode. I mean, that'll give you just some practice, even if you don't really, you know, even if thousands of people don't listen, man, it's just something to practice, you know, and it's something that you really like and knowledgeable about. Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say about The Wire, like cause I caught up, I would buy like the DVDs. So I'm like, this show's good enough.
Me too.
I'm like, this show's good enough to own. So I just buy the seasons, and I caught up with it before season 4 when it focused on the school system.
That was great.
And, I remember like, you know, being like bummed when at the end of season 3, you know, Stringer Bell is my favorite character. When he was killed off, I was like, man.
I know, man.
And then just how like some of the characters, like they keep going on, and then like you said, a lot of crazy stuff like happened in the final season, and I was like, you know, I'm like, McNulty really went and staged like a serial killing or something, making
that was crazy, man.
Yeah, it was
so out there. Yeah.
And and when it was over, I was like, man, like that's one show, like it still holds up. Like I could still watch it and just.
That's one of those shows, man. Like, I have a hard time not rewatching it because I like I like to be comfortable. I don't really branch out, to be honest. And like when I like a show, I'll watch it over and over and over again. But I have to tell myself I can't do that. And The Wire is one of the shows where I'm like, don't do it. To watch something new, because dude, I could watch it over and over and over again. I love that show, man. Yeah. But Sopranos, I'll never stop watching Sopranos, man. I think this is probably my maybe 8th or 9th time watching the series. So.
Yeah, I did that recently. Probably there was a brief amount of time where it was on Amazon, and and I watched, and that's when I watched all of it again. It was probably maybe, I don't know, a few months ago.
It was, because I remember I was in the middle of watching it, and that disappeared in The Wire, and I was like, what the hell, man? Well, they pulled both of them off of Amazon, and then I ended up just getting the free subscription to HBO just so I could finish.
Yeah,
I got a couple of my younger buddies hooked on The Wire, man, and Sopranos. I'm like guys in their early 20s who kind of heard about it but had never seen it. And I always think about them. Like, I wonder how old the shows look to them, because like, you know, the cell phone technology. Like, remember in The Wire, like how they were explaining, like, oh, this is what a wiretap is, and these are cell phones, and you know, this is how you track them, and this is how you text message. It's just like, Jesus, man, we've come so far in such a short time.
Yeah.
To where like text messaging was a new, like police didn't know, like, what are they doing? I see them on the phones, but they're not making calls. And I remember it was like, it was Freeman. He was like, it's called SMS text messaging. I was like, Jesus, who the hell calls it SMS text messaging?
I know, but it's a technology. Like, I think the spring started in 99, and I was like, I want to say I graduated high school in 2000.
I'm older than you.
Just to think like that it started like that long ago. It's insane, and it's still just as good today. It's crazy.
Dude, it's so good. I was out in Dallas with Norman doing some shows, and him and I started talking to us about The Sopranos, and this another comic, she was in there. She was like, oh my God, every time I think of The Sopranos, I think about my dad. I was just like, what? She goes, oh, when I was a little kid, whenever I heard The Sopranos music, I knew it was time to go to bed. And I was just like, oh shit, I forgot it. Like you said, it started in 1999. Like there were people that was an adult show. Like there are people who are adults now. They weren't allowed to watch that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But me being 22 when it came out, I didn't think about there was some like 6-year-old kid whose dad watched Sopranos, and that was, dad's show that you couldn't watch. But now she's a grown woman. I'm like, man, I never even thought about that. That show's been around for so long, man.
Yeah,
it's a great show, man. Don't get me started.
Yeah. Well, I really sincerely appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, no problem, man. I'll see you up there, buddy.
I appreciate it. Thanks again.
Yep, no problem.
All right, bye.
Peace.
Thank you so very much for checking out this episode of the Life's a Bit podcast. Please follow Chris Allen on all social media at Chris Allen Comedy, and also follow the podcast on all social media at Life's a Bit Pod. Do me a favor, if you're watching on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe. Or if you're listening, please rate and write a review. I appreciate all the support. New episodes every Friday, and we'll catch you on the next one.